Okay, so this talk, I'm going to be talking through the book, beginning to end, the content of the book. The idea is to deliver actual theory rather than an upsell. And there are no copies for sale today. Right? I'm not trying to get money off you today, so it's not going to be a particularly sales pitchy talk. And also, I'm going to be quite open to questions about Daygame. So at the end of every slide, if you've got anything you want clarification on, put your hand up and I can try and answer your questions. And it might be that my answer is wait till the next slide, I talk about that. But if it's about the content of any given slide, chances are, okay, I'll take the question, we'll try and cover that content. What else? There's a copy of the book going around, so feel free to just have a look out of curiosity. It'll be on sale, I don't know, a week from now if you do decide you want a copy. And what else? Okay, and one thing that might seem a little bit weird is it might be a bit stop-starty because we've got the videos on and I'm going to be chopping this up into little pieces for my YouTube channel later. So if at times it sounds more like I'm talking more to the camera than to you, that's why. So my apologies. I'll try and balance that. Okay, so let's start with the content. So the London Daygame Model. I'll just give you a quick overview for any of you who are new to this. I'm not sure, those of you in the room, how many are familiar with what it is. So, what happened is back in 2007, 2008, there were a bunch of guys, this is slightly before my time, were running around London streets trying to figure out how to pick up girls on the street. Talking about guys like Yard, Sasha, Keychain, who else was there? Around that era.
What year?
2007, 2008. You guys had just about started around then, hadn't you?
No, I started late 2005.
Fucking hell. OG. Right, so what happened?
Nice that when the streets were completely clean of PUAs.
So there was... So, guys were running around London trying to figure out how to talk to girls, and there was no community advice of any value on how to do that, especially on busy streets. The advice there was all from America, based on malls or sitting in cafes. So gradually over the course of a few years, started to formulate these ideas, people learned from each other, and it gradually got more and more precise until most of us follow more or less this model. So we called it the London Daygame Model because it was developed in London and it was many people. It wasn't the Krauser model, the Eddie model, you know, so on. So this is how the model looks. So open from the very first moment you talk to the girl to number close, which is usually 5 to 10 minutes later. There's certain stages you'd expect to go through. So the open just refers to stopping her, because, you know, usually she's moving, but if she's sitting down, it can include that. So by open, we simply mean stuff like, oh, excuse me, hi, can I just say something right now? You know, that's it, that's the open. Then from the open, you have to create a conversation out of nothing with somebody you know almost nothing about. That is one of the key innovations of the London Daygame Model, is gives you a very, very precise step-by-step way of doing that, to give you about as good a probability as you're going to have to start the conversation. So normally what we do in stacking, by the way, there's a more detailed slide on each of these later in the talk, but what you're normally doing in stacking is you're looking at the girl, you're running a very quick calculation in your mind of why do I like this girl, what do I notice about this girl, and then you're going to feed it back to her and in some way jazz it up, make it larger than life, make it mythological, just so that, you know, you show a bit of creativity, you put a bit of smile on her face, and she's like, you know what, I'll listen to this guy. Her feet are going to stop, she'll turn her attention to you, and now you've got your little foot in the door to start working. Then we have what we call the vibing stage, which is slightly different to the concept vibe. But vibing is the stage with which you project the vibe you have. So vibing is basically light-hearted, aimless, free associating, fun chat, teasing, flirting. Right? So it's usually characterized by not much rapport seeking. You're not really trying to find out anything real about the girl, about her hopes, her dreams, what she cares about, what she really does. You're not really trying to show anything serious about yourself. You're just kind of saying, look, I'm a kind of flirty, attractive guy. I've got some interest in you. I'm adding this little bit of spice to what might be an otherwise dreary day, and then you're trying to pull her in and play along with us. Then at some point, normally about a minute or two in, you've done that. You've demonstrated where, you know, I'm a kind of fun, attractive guy. And she's like, oh yeah, you're kind of all right, you know, your foot's a bit further in the door. But you don't look like a clown the whole time. So in order to not look like a clown, you move into the next stage, investment, where you actually start telling her who you really are, and you start finding out more about who she really is, at a level of depth commensurate with the fact that you've only known each other a couple of minutes. Nothing too serious, you know. So, you know, you're not like, oh yeah, I'm just in London because, you know, I had a really bad childhood trauma when I was 7 when there was a car crash and I cried. You know, not that level, right? So in my video product Daygame Overkill, I talk about one of the things you do there is it's just about me, about you, right? It's quite real, and it's getting some rapport, some emotional connection, some sense that you're a real person who has some actual interest in who she is as a person. And this is the bit where she gets in her mind the thing to remember you by. Oh yeah, that's the guy from Wales who works in the advertising company and has just come back from Croatia. You know, that's where that sort of information is conveyed. However, this can be very boring. And it's very easy to go from a sexual, fun, flirty conversation into a really boring friend zone conversation. And therefore, in order to stop that happening, we use what's called spikes. So spikes would be, imagine the energy of the conversation is like this. A spike is, right? That's where the term spike comes from. So an example of a spike would be you're talking to a girl and you're like, yeah, I used to live in Tokyo because I was working as a fight journalist, and I tell you what, I love the ramen in Tokyo because I'm really into food and, ooh, nice. Anyway, look, so see, that would be a spike, right? You look at her tits, you say, ooh, nice, and then you go back. You immediately remind her, right? Now, what characterizes spikes is they're playful. They're very fast. You don't linger on them because then you're starting to get creepy, right? If you look at that tits, you know, your tits are awesome. I like those tits. Fucking hell, I love, oh God. Right? Now you're creepy, right? So they're fast. They're hit and run, and they're just this little jolt, you know, like a little shiv in her of like, look, I am trying to fuck you here. Without doing it so long that she has to, like, you know, stay on the topic of, and then she's like, oh, I don't want to be like a slut. Okay, so you spike. Normally you'll just throw in, like, say, 3 spikes. A 5-minute conversation, 3 spikes is quite enough. She'll get the message. You really don't need to overdo it. And so what you'll find with some infields you might see, some infields are shot purely for entertainment, right? The guy's in the street, he's in a great mood, maybe he's had a bit of booze, the camera's on him, his mates are, right, let's get something for YouTube. And what he'll normally do is he'll make this flamboyant, this really long, skip this completely, and put tons of those in. And that's very entertaining, and you can learn from it, right? You can learn how to do good spikes, you can learn as a technical demo of what's possible with a girl in the street. But if you're not including this, and if you overdo this, you're very likely to get a flake. So if you're actually trying to get laid, you've got to make sure you do those right. But like I say, if you just want to entertain people on YouTube, you'll find guys who can do all of this very well, myself included. Every now and then, we'll just do a stupid YouTube video, which is all this, this, and tons of that, right? But just let you know, be careful what it is. You want to have a balanced model when you're doing it to get laid. Right, and then last close, usually that's a number close. We can talk in more detail if you wish about when you decide to ideate and when you don't. But let's say if it's just a number close, what you'll normally do is you'll throw a little direct statement of intent right at the end, what we might call close strong. And then you have to take a number. And there's not really anything fancy to that at all. It's very simple. Just something like, look, I'll tell you, the one I use a lot now is this. I'll say to the girl, look, anyway, I got to go, but I'll tell you a secret. She's like, okay, what? And then normally, I might like lean over a little bit and whisper in her ear, I think you're very nice, very pretty. And then she'll be out, okay? And I say, look, we should go out and have a coffee sometime. Would you like that? It's very simple, right? You're just restating the intent, hitting on her, giving her a yes or no option. And if it's no, it's no. And if it's yes, you take the number. So that is the simple street phase of the London Daygame model. So can you leave the slide up? And Any questions?